There's a new level of dedication, commitment, swagger, and confidence in Cowboy football again. And this late night Pirate Paradise football camp, is that not the perfect way to kick off spring ball?
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, Big 12 country? Shout out to the regulators, a.k.a. everydayers. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda, who puts the same drive into every single detail. Wins define the moment, yeah, but putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moments, where there is more to Mazda, just like there is also more to you. We get to jump right into this foosball spring camp conversation, but is it not kind of odd to see some people not loving the Pirate Paradise terminology? I understand it. Like some people want it to be called Cowboy Paradise or something to that effect. This is an ode, an honor to Mike Leach, and anything that is an honor to Mike Leach, I personally am going to be 100% behind. Mike Leach made a name for himself because of his unique camps, his unique ways to reach players, his unique offensive systems that would exploit things defensively, and a lot of that togetherness, trusting that the receivers are going to run the right routes and the tight ends are going to do what they're supposed to do, whether it be chip or running out or protect the QB, whatever the case is. You're going to learn a lot about your teammates in these moments. And we've already discussed how there is a lot more togetherness, and they go four-wheeling, they go mudding, they play in little tournaments together. They do a lot of things together that they were not doing previously. That's all insanely exciting. But as Eric Morris even said, he wants this team to do the hard things together. Like that, there's been a massive emphasis on the team being a team. And when you have like 80 new players, that makes complete sense. But at the same point in time, there's enough North Texas dudes that are helping with the implementation of schematics, and it's going pretty daggone smooth. And these dudes would run through brick walls for Drew Mestemaker because of some of the things he's willing to do off of the field that have essentially nothing to do with football, but all about your teammates. I love this Pirate Paradise thing, and we got to dig back a little bit. Why is this happening? What did Mike Leach do? Well, Mike Leach was famous for his midnight maneuvers while he was at Washington State, where they were doing grueling conditioning sessions starting at midnight, and they focused on positional competition, speed, agility, and sometimes they didn't give a hoot what the temperature was outside when they were doing it. Late night academics at Texas Tech. If players were falling behind in classes, they had to have 4 a.m. summoned meetings to the weight room for mandatory sessions. The night seminars. I know I still can't speak English well. Leach co-taught a 5-week Wednesday night course titled Insurgent Warfare and Football Strategies at Washington State, where they explored the asymmetric advantages in both combat and sports. This is the lineage that has been taken into Eric Morris, and that is precisely what he's trying to get out of this Cowboy football team. This staff firmly believes that they don't need a lot of rebuilding time. They should be able to hit the ground running with the guys like Ethan Moslowski and Sadiq Clements and Kevion Huddleston. These guys are helping with the implementation, and that is allowing them to play better. Today, they had their first official spring camp practice workout, and the defense got the better of the offense, and that is to be somewhat expected. But at the same point in time, there seemed to be a heavy emphasis on the defensive line. Is it possible, ladies and gentlemen, does Coach G. Rich finally have the D-line that he had in like 2021? I mean, you got to think about it. Why is everybody talking about the D-line this year when it hasn't been a focal point in the last handful of seasons? It could be because the offensive line still has a lot to learn, as Coach Morse mentioned in that post-game or post-practice press conference. It's hard to dictate whether the offensive linemen are doing precisely what they're supposed to when they don't have pads on. You're not going full speed. But again, is it time to get excited about a defensive line again at Oklahoma State? Everyone keeps talking about Sadiq Clement, 6'4", 310-pound transfer from North Texas, who apparently changes his name to number 5. Right? You know, if you're wearing number 5 as a defensive tackle, you better be a bad man pajama because you stand out. I think you got to look at NIY coming over from Penn State after some success at Texas A&M and some success at Penn State. He's coming to Oklahoma State to finish his career the right way. 6'5", 302 pounds. Then you have Xavier Mason coming over, 5'11", 270 pounds. Landon Dean, we've talked about him a decent amount. He has the versatility to do a lot of the things that I think Colin Oliver was able to do with more size at 6'5", 290 pounds. A guy the coaches and teammates are talking a lot about is Jerry Lawson, 6'1", 315 pounder, coming over from Louisville, who has a connection back to Abilene Christian with Skylar Cassidy. You have Dominic McCunn coming in, 6'3", 310 pounds from Washington. Of course, you got Braylon Rigsby coming over, 6'3", 285 from Texas Tech. Nigel Farsi is a name that I think a lot of people are going to learn as time progresses. And, of course, Luke Webb was a guy that the staff really, really wanted to come back at 6'3", 311 pounds. Malik Charles, that's a home run. So glad to have him back. You get James Williams over from Florida State. We talked about Kevion Huddleston, 6'4", 270 pounds. DJ Jackson is a name that keeps getting brought up a little bit, 6'4", 250 pounds. We got the big body beast, 6'3", 260 pounder, Billy Walton III from SMU. And if we think back, a lot of us thought we were going to get him before he committed to Texas. He was would have been a big addition. So nice to have him back. You got to talk about Deshaun Brown. You got to talk about Jaleel Johnson. I think you could even throw Landon Bland into this conversation. Athletically, I think Landon Bland's going to do a lot of the things that Landon Dean has been able to do in his career. This defensive line might be problematic for the Big 12. This defensive line might look something like 2021. Again, I'm not out here saying we're going to be as good as 2021's defense, but there are parallels to draw. One of the biggest ones being that was Greg Richmond's line. Tyler Lacey, Brennan Evers, those were his kind of dudes. Brock Martin. This emergence of the constant everyday team building in correlation to this Pirate Paradise thing is precisely what this team needed. They needed a boot camp kind of thing. They needed a galvanization of teammates. I think it's very visible the last couple of years. We did not have that. You could see it on the sidelines. You could see it on TV. You could see it when players would quit running, when we were down by 23 points or whatever the case may be. You could see it. And as I've preached constantly, if your team is super, super tight, they're going to play better in those crunch time moments, right? To me, that's when you really find out how close your team is. If it's the fourth quarter and there's 21 seconds left and you got to drive the field, you got to have trust. You got to have faith. Of course, you got to have the ability, but you have to know that I'm going to run this route precisely accurate because the guy on top of me is going to do the same. The guy underneath me is going to draw in the linebackers and open this window. You have to know that your teammates are going to do precisely what they're going to do instead of what we've seen over the last couple of seasons, which is a lot of teammates that were just trying to get better film for themselves moving forward, whether it be at Oklahoma State or elsewhere. And as we have unfortunately seen, most of those dudes went elsewhere. Now, granted, the new staff was like, hey, love you, but you got to get to getting. So it wasn't like we didn't bring in the guys that we wanted. We did. But how exciting is it? And I've heard some people say they don't like the terminology of the Pirate Paradise thing again. I don't get it. It's for Mike Leach. Mike Leach is a legend. He's a G. If we're going to have a Mike Leach night, I don't understand why we wouldn't just absolutely adore what is happening right now. Has all of this stuff happened before at Oklahoma State? Yes. Back in the Cowboy culture days where we were winning 8, 10, 11 games every daggone season, those times, this stuff existed. And for whatever reason, we got away from it over the last handful of seasons where the team, they weren't super tight. They didn't do a lot of things together and meetings and on the field. Sometimes they were pitted against each other. So there wasn't enough of an ability to build a cohesive bond. This is different. This is new. We needed this Pirate Paradise late night boot camp thing to kick off the season the right way and to show these guys this is going to be a ton of work because we're not here for 7 wins or 8 wins, which is acceptable. We're here to do something that is special. And they're starting off definitely the right way. You need to start off your day, your long trips out the right way too, and you need to do so with 5 Hour Energy. Y'all know about the 5 Hour Energy draft. We got 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's literally something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I've got my number one pick, right? You guys already know. Sometimes you wouldn't think that the strawberry and watermelon would go good together. For me, it is the beast. It's the best. It's my number one pick. It's got the sweet, the tart. I like my candy, so it's got that candy-like flavor. It is the best flavor duo that we never knew was going to be perfect in our mouth, but that's what it is. So get squared away today with some 5 Hour Energy. Pick your draft, get it set, and go for the dub with 5 Hour Energy. Find your new favorite flavor at 5hourenergy.com or go to Amazon. Again, that is online at 5hourenergy.com or head on over to Amazon to get your 5 Hour Energy boost. Now, we can't forget about our friends over at Indeed. Hiring it's a crapshoot sometimes, right? There's a lot of workplace chaos. Deadlines will be stacking up. Your emails are going crazy. Your phone, your laptop, everything won't stop dinging. And that one position that could help all of it is still open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is the job for Indeed, sponsored jobs. They're going to help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, the skills, experience, location, etc. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles upon your post. Here's a cool stat that says everything in this time that we've been chitting and chatting. 27 hires have been made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you are hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing those candidates who check the boxes. It's less stress, less time, with obviously way more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed. Sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now to support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this particular podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. But if you do need to hire, you already know this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, now we get to roll right into segment 2 here. The Cowboy wrestling team won another Big 12 title, which is precisely what is supposed to happen every single year. And the Cowboys sent 8 of the 10 possible wrestlers to the championship match. We started off a little sluggish, but we closed out absolutely remarkably. And we had several Cowboys that were able to win Big 12 titles. But the team that we're chasing, everybody in the country is trying to take out Penn State. So where do the Cowboys stack up to Penn State? And also, Ohio State's right there in the middle. So how did Oklahoma State match up against Ohio State? Well, obviously, we already know the Cowboys started this thing off with the championships. They got Troy Spratley involved. I mean, obviously, technically, right, they started off with Casey Swiderski. So he was the first Cowboy to get a Big 12 title with a 4-5 decision win over Caleb Arathian. Jax Forrest, of course, major decision over Kyler Larkin, who is a bad mamma jamma himself. Sergio Vega wins a title over Echemendia, who is a gamer, and they go back a ways, so he knows Sergio's game. So somehow Sergio still found a way to dig it out. Jax Forrest dominated. Troy Spratley did his thing against Steve-O Poulin. What a big day for the Cowboys. And then you had D. Lockett, who unfortunately did not quite get it done at 165 against Nico Ruiz. So shout out to the Sun Devil there. Then Cam Steed. Remember, that was the guy that we talked about last week that everybody needed to pay attention to. He was the guy that I was worried about the most because he did the same thing last year. He was regular at the first half of the season. He got better at the back half of the season. And then when the postseason started, Cam Steed took it to a different level. We watched it last year in the national titles, and he did it again. So congratulations to Cam Steed getting a dub over Alex Facundo. Then you had the Mizzou Tiger, Aiden Sinclair at 185, take out Eddie Knightenbach. Then Rocky Elam at 197 pounds got a win over Joey Novak, who had a controversial dub over Cody Merrill. And then Younger Bastida won by decision over Connor Doucette. And realistically, Connor wrestled pretty daggone well. Younger Bastida is, I don't want to say the Wyatt Hendrickson of this class because, the story and the fact that Gable Stevis was in the, there's no storylines like that for younger Bastida, but he is the best heavyweight. So let's compare our champions, Casey Swiderski, congratulations, Sergio Vega, Jax Forrest, Troy Spratley, our 4 champions. Penn State also sent 8 of the possible 10 wrestlers to the championship rounds. And here, unfortunately, is the difference between Oklahoma State and Penn State at the moment. They sent 8 dudes to the championship. 7 of them won. We sent 8 dudes to the championship. Half of them won. So, yeah, I mean, we are catching Penn State. But at the same point in time, they won. They did a remarkable job. So, of course, Luke Lillidahl kicked this thing off, winning a 125-pound division. And then, I'll tell you what, Mendez actually, he's going to be difficult. Jesse Mendez at 141 is going to be an absolute problem for Sergio Vega. And then you got Ben Davino. And a lot of people are saying that 133 pounds from Ohio State, that he can beat Jax Forrest. We'll see. And then you got Shane Van Ness at Penn State, win at 149. PJ Duke at 157. Mitchell Messenbrink, Penn State, 165. Levi Haynes, Penn State, 174. Rocco Welsh, Penn State, 184. Josh Barr, 197, Penn State. And then AJ Ferrari lost to Ty Gadali from Michigan. Shout out. So that is the difference, unfortunately, between Oklahoma State and Penn State at the moment, is we are catching them. But you look at the lower weights. Could Troy Spratley beat Luke Lillidahl? It's possible, right? Can Ben DeVito beat Jax Forrest? We'll see. A lot of people are saying that, but he's an Ohio State dude. But we have to surpass Ohio State. Is Jesse Mendez the best at 141? A lot of people think so, but Sergio, he's the scramble god for a reason. And then Shane Van Ness, 149. Can Casey Swiderski stack up to Shane Van Ness? That'd be a tall task. PJ Duke at 157. That's another difficult proposition. Then you have Mitchell Messenbrink there at 165. And the way that D-Lock has been wrestling recently, that would be difficult. That's the problem, though. Could Troy beat Luke Lillidahl? Yes. Potentially, yes. Could Shane Van Ness potentially lose to Casey Swiderski? Yes, it's a possibility. But then the rest of the weights are the weights that they dominate, and we don't score enough points at. So whenever you get to past 165 pounds, Oklahoma State does not score enough points, and they do. So just to put it in perspective, the Cowboys did phenomenal. They did precisely what they're supposed to do, which is win Big 12 titles. But the next step in the evolutionary process of Cowboy wrestling is going to be doing precisely what Penn State just did. If you send 8 dudes to the championship, you should win 7 or 8 if you're a national title team. We're close. We're getting there. I think they can feel it coming, right? I don't think they're oblivious to the fact that the Cowboys are kind of taking over, especially in the recruiting realm. We're literally getting almost everybody that we want. I mean, sure, would we have liked Bo and his family and the Miller connection? Yes, we would have. But we got Jax Forrest. So that kind of cancels everything else out, in my opinion. Hey, let me know down in the comments if I am crazy. I may be. Before we get rocking into this next ad, ladies and gentlemen, go do what you're best at and have some fun. Do some typing, do some talking. Be part of the Everydayer Club at LockedOnOklahomaState.supercast.com. It is a way to get directly linked to everybody in here and have a ton of fun. We also got to talk about FanDuel, right? FanDuel is the bee's knees for all of your betting needs. But at the same point in time, if you're going to be capitalizing on your monetary situation, get with FanDuel. And then also get squared away today with Mazda. Mazda is going to move the game forward. For those who know there's more to the score than what's simply on the screen. There's a lot of times where players remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. Anthony Roy is typically that guy for Cowboy basketball. Anthony Roy was that guy that did give us an opportunity to take out the Houston Cougars. Came up a hair shy, but it's all right. We dialed in the details. We gave it that extra fire, that grit, that never quit attitude, even without Parsifala, just like Mazda. They put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the real, yeah, but what it takes to get there is what makes it all count. You need to go get squared away today with Mazda, because there's more to Mazda, just like there's also more to you. All right, baseball, they got rocking and rolling. That first game, a 3-game series against Gardner-Webb, was absolutely atrocious. I think everybody would agree, even Josh Holliday, the baseball players, and whatever the case is. But the Cowboys absolutely responded after that massive run rule thumping by Gardner-Webb. That was crazy, though, to watch a 19-5 ball game. And, yeah, obviously Hudson was supposed to be the starter, and then there was a little bit of a delay. And, his arm got a little stiff in that delay time. So when he came back out, it just wasn't feeling right. So then we just went with a ton of young arms, which I understand saving because you still have an opportunity to win the series. But we just kept throwing arms at it. And it just unfortunately did not work out for the Cowboys. Right? We had TP Wentworth, obviously. We had Hudson Barrett. We had Bryce LeBlanc. We had Zane Burns. We had Brendan Phillips. We had Parker Jennings. We were just throwing pitchers out to him left and right to no avail. We got absolutely hammered in so many different categories. But at the end of the day, they responded. And that's what all of this is about. It's about your response. It's about what you do, after you get punched in the mouth repeatedly by a team that probably shouldn't be hanging with you. The Cowboys respond with a 4-2 victory the next day. Ethan Lund is 3-0 on the season. Ethan Lund is going to be one of the top 10 pitchers once again in the country because he's that guy. I think he is the dude. Hudson Barrett, when fully healthy, combined with Ethan Lund, is a dangerous combo. I think Mario Pesca, again, is one of those individuals that he's gonna win you some ball games, right? We had Smithwick, he singled. It allowed Brock Thompson to score. Colin Ritchie, goodness gracious. I think he's tied. He's either number 1 or number 2 or tied for first in America with home runs. And he's like top 2, top 3 last I looked, just a couple days ago, in RBIs in the country. Colin Ritchie has emerged as the the big-time major league prospect of this ball club, other than Ethan Lund. Right? You got to give a shout-out to Ethan Lund. Aiden Miola, he was out that game that we got demolished. He comes back and he picks up where he left off and he starts smashing balls around. We start moving runners. We start getting home runs, just keeping it simple and getting good performances. And then, how about Mario Pesca? Just cool, calm, collected. He pitched a gem. He went a long one. But it all came together for the Cowboys. The hitting picked up. Alex Conover looked good. Brock Thompson looked good. Colin Ritchie looked dominant. Right? Aiden Miola, dominant. And then you had, Sebastian Norman is somebody that everybody in the country needs to be aware of. Colin Brueggemann, he's playing pretty daggone well, like I got to admit. Right? He had those stretches where he was a strikeout machine, and then he had that game where he was sailing balls into the outfield trying to throw it to second, but it seems like he's dialed it in. I mean, he's launching them, but he's also keeping it simple. He's willing to just poke the bat out there sometimes to stay alive, which is a little bit of development. You have to admit, this version of Cowboy baseball is fun. It's cool. It's reliable. And I think we do have more than enough arms. I don't know if Coach Shane Hawksworth, kind of talked about how it was pretty visible that Hudson Barrett getting hurt just kind of screwed everybody's preparation up, because they literally had to pull somebody out of the dugout, not out of the bullpen. He wasn't stretching. He wasn't doing plyometrics. He wasn't doing none of that. He was chilling in the dugout, probably eating sunflower seeds and talking about whatever. And then he has to go in immediately. Yeah, it's a tough position. So, and then every pitcher after that, it was a domino effect of nobody having the right preparation. Pitchers are a little bit different. All right, pitchers typically, they don't mind isolation sometimes and kind of doing their own thing and getting prepared their own way. Some people stretch different ways. Like my son, he throws a football because he pronates a lot. So he wants to get that feeling off of the fingertips. There's a lot of crazy things that the pitchers do to get ready. So I understand it. But at the same point in time, it's a good learning moment for Coach Hawksworth, right? That might change some of the preparation moving forward. Like instead of just having a dude ready, perhaps you have multiple guys kind of speed up their process. But again, you have to monitor that, because if it's different than what they're used to and you're throwing off their process, it messes with pitchers sometimes. So I get it. It was ugly. It was dirty. It shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. And we won the series. Should we be sweeping Gardner-Webb? Yes. But it's all about response. Tomorrow we have the dreaded or extremely welcomed Dallas Baptist. And then we have a UCF, in which the Cowgirls went down to UCF. So when we take out Dallas Baptist, all right, that's a huge one. It's crazy that Dallas Baptist has turned into the, I don't know, James Madison, I guess, since they made the playoffs. The Tulane. Maybe that's probably a better analogy. Dallas Baptist has become the Tulane that everybody is aware is really good and you kind of fear. But at the same point in time, it's a good test of your mettle. It's a good test to see where you are. I remember back in the day that used to be like Cal State Fullerton. It was crazy. When I was growing up as a kid, they were really, really, really good. They were an Omaha national title kind of team very consistently. And Dallas Baptist has turned into that for the most part. I mean, they don't have the natties yet, but they're basically a school, a university that is now known to make it to super regionals in Omaha. Like that is now the expectation for Dallas Baptist. It's so cool and it's so crazy that this sport is so humbling that if you do everything, you do all the little fine details right, you end up with a Dallas Baptist kind of ball club. So if you're playing against them and you don't do the little things right and you are not good at small ball, your chances of beating Dallas Baptist are typically pretty slim, even for Oklahoma State inside O'Brate Stadium. I can't believe those words just left my lips, but it is what it is. We are where we are, and that's all we're going to have for this one. Rye Share. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Lockdown Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Also, I got to give a little shout out before we skedaddle. Y'all know I'm a Friends University Falcon. You know my son is assigned to play baseball at Friends University as well. And Friends University just had a national champion in track and field. Congratulations to Carter Geitinger. He stood out among a crowded group of solid performers. He claimed a national title and obviously All-American. He won the men's heptathlon with a school record 5,466 points. He also ranks as fourth most in NAIA history. So congratulations to our fellow Friends Falcon out there. All right, y'all. You know the drill. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. Like it if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. All right, y'all. I'm out. Later, my taters.